In this episode of the BioSteel Road to Pro podcast, Dan and Eric are joined by Team Canada Olympic gold medalist and the Ottawa Charge #2 pick in the 2024 PWHL draft, Danielle Serdachny, as she talks about her new partnership with BioSteel, the progression of women's sports, and her journey to becoming a professional hockey player.
All right, awesome, Danielle. Appreciate you answering the questions, and we're going to get into the hockey ones. So Eric's got a little bit of interesting context for you too on where some of these questions actually came from.
Yeah, so I'm gonna get more into like the hockey stuff. I was actually super excited when Dan reached out to me to involve me in the conversation with you, because at the academy we are going to be having a girls program launch next year. So it's going to be either a U18 or U22 program. And right now we have a bunch of the highest level girls in our area at the academy that are going to be kind of looking to follow a similar path to what you've gone down. So a lot of these are framed that way. And then just from my thoughts, specifically contrasting what the trajectory of a female hockey player might be versus a male. Because a lot of us, we work with boys all the time. We've been working with boys for years. And for me personally, working with women's hockey is kind of a new space. So that's kind of why I was excited to talk to you. And then obviously the girls and the coach from the academy are super excited to get some perspective. So I hear the Northern Canadian accent. So I saw that you played. I saw that you played growing up in Alberta. So talk to me a little bit about what did youth hockey, minor hockey look like for you? Where did you play, and what kind of level was it? Whether you have like a AAA, AA designation, and what that path was for you before you got into college and higher level.
Yeah, definitely. So growing up in Alberta, I came from a big hockey family. I have 3 siblings. And then my parents are both kind of involved in hockey. So kind of came natural for us to be put in skating and then eventually hockey. But growing up, I played in Edmonton for an organization called SWAT, which is kind of the younger levels, and then made the switch to Southwest Zone, and then eventually SSAC it was called. So I actually played boys hockey up until grade 10.
Oh, wow.
Just kind of was a personal preference at the time, but there was definitely options to play all girls, obviously, but I just think for myself and my parents, they thought that was kind of the best thing at the time for my development and kind of future with hockey. So I was pretty fortunate, obviously, to have played that long with the guys, but also just kind of the welcoming and environment they kind of showed me, I would say. So once I made the switch to girls hockey in grade 10, I played in Edmonton for a year, and then eventually moved to Pursuit of Excellence in Kelowna for grade 11 and 12. So
cool.
That's
So
super
yeah, that
impressive.
CSSHL, actually, we were just at a showcase with our academy teams on the weekend. And so it's obviously like a top end league playing out there. So how did you feel playing, especially, I didn't realize that you played with boys that late. So how do you feel that shaped when you did bring your game into female hockey? How do you think that helped to transition into that, or gave you an edge maybe over that game? And was there a moment during that time where it clicked for you, like, hey, I might be able to pursue hockey, or I might be able to play high level hockey, go to college, maybe play pro? I don't know. I know obviously when you were younger, the PWHL wasn't really an established thing yet. So that was probably a nice thing to have come up. But at what point did that kind of happen for you? And how did you find that transition from men's hockey to women's hockey?
yeah, definitely. I think obviously playing with the guys, you're kind of playing with, I would say, stronger and faster players. So I think that kind of pushed me to be better every single day. Obviously, being one of the only girls on the team, you never want to be kind of behind the guys or like one of the worst on the team. So I think that kind of allowed myself to be pushed every single day, because I didn't really want that to happen, obviously. So switching to girls, I would say the biggest adjustment was probably, I would say there's a few things. Obviously, the physicality for sure, because I played body contact and then made the switch to no body contact. So just kind of adjusting my game to that was definitely a big one. But another one would also be just the social aspect. I think playing guys your whole life, you're kind of in your own space, pretty much like in your own dressing room till right before the game. So just kind of adjusting to being in that team environment. obviously getting the opportunity to be in a locker room with the girls, and obviously all the fun and memories that comes from that too. So I would say also growing up, I never really knew how far I'd make it. I feel like when you're kind of playing against guys your whole life, you don't really know per se how you size up against girls your age. So I was kind of a bit naive, I would say, in that aspect, because I truly didn't know where I kind of would end up with the female side of the game. But I would say being the only girl and playing high level of hockey with the guys, people would always tell me, like, or my parents, she'll be on Team Canada one day, and I never like really truly believed it, because I was like, oh, they're just saying that, like they don't really know. But it's kind of funny now how it ended up. I actually saw a clip of me when I played with the guys that came up on the Facebook memories. I think I was 13 or 14, and someone actually posted it and was like, "He will be on Team Canada one day." And obviously, at the time, you're kind of like, "Oh, that's like nice of him to say," but to see it kind of come to life now is pretty cool. And I think kind of just being surrounded by such competitive players growing up definitely helped me out, and for obviously the future.
That's super. We're gonna have to get that clip. We're gonna have to splice that in here.
Yeah.
I think people need to see that.
Yeah,
That's was super interesting.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I want to stick on the physicality piece for a second, because this is a key thing. I was actually at a game. Double A is the highest level we have in girls hockey here before they play junior. So I was at one of the games a couple weekends ago watching our girls, and I was surprised at how physical the game actually is in women's hockey. And I was having a hard time understanding like what is a hit, because it looked like there's a lot of hits. It looks like there's a lot of body checking going on. So I remember asking the coaches about that, just like what actually is a body check, like how do you get penalties? And it started a discussion that one of the staff was having with me about when they play in different areas. In our area, Toronto versus Windsor, where we are, reffing is different. Some refs call more, some refs call less. So how do you find the physical component in female hockey? And if you were to say whether it should be in more or less, or compare it with men's hockey and the physicality with that game, where would you say it stacks up, and how much it actually impacts the outcome of a game?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to say. I just think with the new professional women's hockey league, that more and more contact at like younger levels in the college level are going to be allowed, which I think is a good thing. I actually have a 14-year-old sister, so the past weekend I went and watched her game, and I was honestly like surprised with what they were allowing. But I just think the PWHL is kind of the new standard for that, and obviously the levels below are going to have to learn to adjust, because what they're allowing in the PWHL, I think, is also a really good thing for hockey, because fans like to see the physicality and the excitement around that. So I think kind of integrating it into those younger levels is important too, because at the same time it also teaches them how to. Like, I feel like for players that haven't played body contact growing up, there's kind of a bit of a gray area with how to do it and like what's safe and that sort of thing. So I think for these girls starting to kind of integrate it at a younger level is really important too.
Nice, yeah. So one of the things that we were kind of talking about also, when you're on your, I guess, like on your recruiting path from younger level hockey, for the boys at least, it seems like there's a much clearer path to get from A to B, from minor hockey to junior hockey to college, or minor hockey to junior hockey to pro. And I don't see that same path as clearly outlined in female hockey. And it could just be I'm not experienced enough to know what the path is. But talk a little bit about what your path looked like in terms of getting recruited for colleges. I know like you were obviously a highly sought after prospect for NCAA colleges. And what was that journey kind of like for you and your family, and how you made a choice? How did you choose where to play to get maximum exposure, and kind of what did that path look like for you? It might be a little different out west than here, but I think it would give people a good perspective on what they can kind of think about following.
Yeah, definitely. I think my path is probably a bit different than many, just like I mentioned, playing guys growing up. So before I committed, that was kind of like the era of women's hockey where people were committing in like grade 8 and 9 and stuff. So um, obviously being from out west too, there's not as many female hockey players, I would say, especially multiple years ago. So I never really felt any pressure to be one of those players that's committing at that age because just like having my parents know hockey like well, they were never like urgently telling me I need to make a decision on like a big decision like that, essentially at that age. So I think I was kind of grateful for that. But once I wasn't committed in grade 10 and then made the decision to move to Kelowna to attend POE in grade 11. I think that's when my coaches really kind of helped me out. So my coach, Chris Hogg, who's actually still works there, and then my other coach, actually Jess Campbell, who's now coaching in the NHL. So I was pretty fortunate there to have two great people and great coaches that knew a lot about hockey and women's hockey. So from there, I kind of just started talking to different schools and kind of just wanted to get a feel for what I thought I liked and what I wanted in my college experience. So kind of picked, I think, 5 or 6 schools I wanted to tour, and then actually ended up committing to Colgate. I think halfway through grade 11. So I think it was a bit of a stressful time for me, just being a player who's, I'd say, or a person who's fairly indecisive on what I want. So took me a while there to decide, but obviously super happy with how it worked out and for attending Colgate for 5 years. So
What was the process of actually getting recruited? Did you find that the stat, like this is a common question I get from boys or like men, women, doesn't matter. A lot of them ask or think that they need some kind of an agent or an advisor or somebody that promotes them or sends video out for them, whatever. And obviously, like, there's a lot of people that do that, and that can be super helpful. But what did it look like for you when you were trying to attract college attention, or was it fully just your play did the talking and they were knocking at the door for you?
yeah, I would say a bit of both. Like I mentioned, I had pretty great coaches there in Kelowna, so they definitely helped me out as far as asking what I wanted or where I maybe wanted to go. On top of getting that exposure too from playing in different tournaments and locations across Canada and the U.S. So I think it was a bit of both. I know there's different stories of players saying you maybe need an agent or you need someone to be doing it, but I think it's also pretty easy yourself to, if you're interested in a college, reaching out to them as well. I mean, it's not always going to work out how you think or maybe how you want, but just kind of putting yourself out there and giving yourself the opportunity. If it does, I guess, not end up working out, knowing that you tried rather than kind of just waiting for someone to come knocking on your door. So I think there's many great options as far as that. So
Yeah, for sure. I think I was having a conversation with, again, one of the women's coaches out here, and I actually was fortunate enough to work with some of these girls through the summertime. And one thing that I found with how they play is they're very good at following instructions, and it almost seems like they're tentative about going outside the lines. And now I don't know if that's specific to women's hockey, but it's a common theme I hear, not just from my own experience, but from other people talking about it. I ended up getting a specific question from one of the women's coaches about how do you teach or promote creativity, number one, and then also how do you try to create like a sense of urgency and intensity when players are playing. So for you, you're known for being more of a high IQ player, playmaking. Obviously, like there's a big leadership component to yourself in the dressing room from all accounts. So for you, what helped you to develop those elements in your game, or do you feel like it was something that you just had right from day one?
yeah, I would say probably just kind of having fun and having coaches that allow you to be creative. I feel like with girls and women sometimes, I guess, not to put everyone under the same umbrella, but people are scared to make mistakes. So I think when people are scared to make mistakes, maybe they're scared to try new things or scared to be creative. So I think just having a coach and program and team as a whole that allows you to be creative and allows you to have fun. Obviously, you don't want to overkill and where you're taking so many risks during a game, but I think just like allowing for that fun environment and um, is just so important, especially for the female side. So I would say that's definitely that something that kind of helped me take my game to the next level. Obviously, I was a player who always worked hard, was never really the best on the team, just playing with guys. So being in an environment that I was able to thrive in, I think came from the coaches allowing you to be your best self every day, but also allowing you to try new things, both on and off the ice. So that was definitely very helpful for me.
Awesome. Obviously, you've had a lot of highlights. Like I got your stat sheet here. Playing at Colgate, Canada U18s, captain of Colgate, and then obviously with the PWHL draft. So there's a lot of highlight moments in there. I'm sure that we could talk about. But one that's interesting for me is first with the PWHL. When did that the idea of being in the PWHL, playing professionally, when did that become real for you? And when did you maybe realize, okay, I could actually do this professionally and maybe make a hockey career out of this? Because this is, like, for all intents and purposes, a relatively new thing in women's hockey where you actually have an opportunity to play professionally and actually make a career out of it. So first of all, when did that happen for you where you thought, hey, I could actually do this? And then second, that moment of actually being drafted, talk a little bit about that, how that process went for you with Ottawa.
Yeah, I think just being kind of in college in my fifth year, I think everything all happened fairly quick just with the PWHL buying the PHF over the summer. Then how quickly they were able to form the league was honestly super impressive and just how well it did. So I think kind of in that time period, on top of being in college, the talk about it and around it definitely amplified quite a bit. So throughout the year, I definitely kept a close eye on obviously the league as a whole and really enjoyed watching, but also being a part of the Canadian national women's team. A lot of those players were going through the process of the draft and signing contracts and being a part of the league. So definitely kept a closer eye on it for sure. I mean, at the time, definitely wanted to focus on my college team and what we could accomplish there. But on the back of your mind, it's definitely your future and hopefully what was to come. So definitely saw it as an opportunity to do what I love, obviously playing hockey and also have it as a profession after college. So definitely something I wanted to strive towards upon hearing about it. But as far as the draft, I think it was just pretty incredible. I mean, 2 years ago, if you would have asked me like about playing professionally and attending a draft, I probably would have said there's no chance, just with everything that was kind of going on. But I think to be there and be a part of something like the PWHL draft is something I'll kind of remember for a long time. But I think it goes without saying, but I think it also speaks to the efforts that have been put in by past players, current players, future players, just to kind of grow the game as a whole. So for that, I think I'm just incredibly grateful to graduate at the time I did, but for all those trailblazers to kind of pave the way for us younger people coming into the league. So definitely really fortunate for sure.
Nice. How has your experience been so far engaging with Ottawa on the organizational level? And what do you think of let's say from a mindset perspective, transitioning to from the college game to a pro game? Has there been anything that has stood out to you that's been surprising, or how do you feel that you're adapting to that kind of different environment?
Yeah, so I'm actually still in Edmonton, so I haven't had the opportunity to go out to Ottawa yet, but training camps start at the start of November-ish. So
Oh, it's a bit
obviously
later.
really
Okay.
really looking forward to that. And I'm training with some of the best players in the world. So I think as far as an adjustment, I think just the physicality is going to be amplified, but also I think getting to compete with and against the best players in the world every single day is going to kind of help elevate my game, but also the women's game as a whole. So I just think it's going to continue to get better over the next several years. And I think that's very, very exciting for everyone involved.
I actually have a question. Where did you feel the most pressure, playing for Team Canada or the whole, prospect of PWHL and, entering the draft and things like that. Where did you, at what point in your career did you feel the heaviest amount of pressure?
Yeah, definitely. I think probably just the whole PWHL situation. Just being one of the newer players on Team Canada, I never really felt any pressure or like I had to like do something to kind of shift the game per se. Like, obviously, I want to help the team in any way I can, but at the same time, I was a newer player on the team, so I didn't think anyone had any expectations for me to do something really, really important. So every time I go to Hockey Canada, I just kind of try and impact the game, and also just the off ice component in any way I can. So I think that's kind of just allows me to be my best self too, because there's not really a whole lot of pressure on me individually. But I just think with the PWHL, just with like a lot of like the prospect rankings and oh, this player is going to go here, I definitely felt a lot of pressure to perform in college for sure. Obviously, you try and not look into all those rankings and everything going on, but I think it's just human instinct to be curious about it and read maybe about yourself a bit. So I think definitely that was probably the most pressure I felt
Got it.
throughout this year too, on top of being in college and just being the captain and wanting your team to do great things as well. So
got it. Very interesting. So you'd probably chalk it up to say being the captain of your college team and leading into the draft, you felt the heaviest amount of pressure, you would say.
Yeah, I think so.
So you mentioned kind of like what you're projecting going into the pro game is that physicality. Are there any other elements kind of on that note, just for the game in general, that you think need more attention in terms of developing women's hockey to become more popular, growing the game and all those things that you talked about? Is there anything that you think needs to be improved or could be improved on to make it something that's more attractive and continues on the trajectory it's on growing?
Yeah, I think just the visibility. I think the way they did the PWHL has been outstanding. You can just tell now being a part of it, but also being a spectator of it last year, how much time and effort they put into carefully thinking things out. Like I think of even something like the team names and logos. They had those initial ones that they released, and then obviously they didn't want to rush it. So then they went back, I think, and reevaluated, which could be a bit of a smaller issue per se, but I'm just taking in feedback from fans and kind of taking their time with something like that, I think was so important. But I would just say the visibility too. I think you've seen with women's sports as a whole, when they're given the platforms and spotlights, the amazing things they can accomplish. So I think the continued support from obviously media, news, different brands, and just promotion, I think, is going to help continue elevate the women's game for sure.
Is there anything that you would say kind of growing up, maybe shifting gears a little bit because you're obviously now reaching new levels of success, you're going to be an established professional player. Is there anything that growing up you got from your parents? Obviously you were fortunate that they knew the game and they were experiencing the game to provide good guidance for you, but was there anything specific that you can point to that was super helpful, more so for other parents with their daughters specifically, and how they can be supportive in those goals? Because it's obviously a primarily male dominated sport. Obviously on the women's side, it continues to grow, but that isn't typically the direction that parents would be necessarily guiding their daughters. So is there any guidance you can give to parents on things that worked for you, and how they can help support that with their daughters that are kind of looking to do the same thing you have?
Yeah, I mean, I think just I was fortunate that I had such supportive parents, like regardless of the sport I was playing. They were just super supportive of me, and the one thing I always did was work hard, so that never really was an issue. But I think I don't know if it's a trending direction, but just how hard some parents can be on their kids. I think kind of like takes the passion away from it. So
So true.
I know in hard times, my parents were always in my corner lifting me up, but I can't really imagine how I'd feel in those hard times when you're already kind of struggling to find the love and passion for the game. If you had your parents who are supposed to be your biggest supporters kind of bringing you down. So would just think that's such an important aspect is with sport as a whole. There's so many ups and downs, and just having someone in your corner that you can love and trust and that's able to lift you throughout those times, I think is just really, really important.
That's a great point.
Is there yeah, it is it is because a lot of
You and I talk about
we
this
talk about this all the time, and there's a lot of when people ask us questions, and me specifically, they ask me a lot of questions about the differences between like male female hockey, even in like the way I'm framing a lot of the questions, but it's so much the same. Like it is just so much the same, and I feel like there's the crossover, and all the answers you're giving is awesome for that people are gonna be able to hear like your perspective on some of this stuff coming from a high level female athlete. It's awesome. Is there anything obvious in, let's say, youth hockey for girls, or even up through college, if that's appropriate, that you think are obvious barriers to more women being successful as players? Is there anything that stands out to you at any level? It doesn't matter what point you want to plug in on, but is there anything that stands out to you, or do you think that we're starting to kind of break down some of this, and particularly maybe with the PWHL girls can see an option to play professionally or things like that? But is there anything in particular that stands out to you?
Yeah, I think as a whole, as hockey's kind of continued to grow and evolve, that more and more of those barriers are going to be broken down. I think with the PWHL, just being in its second year and kind of getting some good attention from across North America for sure. I think that's so important because for these younger girls that are playing, they can now like dream of doing something in their future and as a job. Like even it's pretty cool for me to see on TikTok or Instagram just girls shooting pucks being like road to the PWHL, because that was just never a thing like growing up. Like I think just for my age, like you always just watched the NHL and like saw all these NHL players, and I think for some maybe like hoped one day they'd be in the NHL as a girl. But now I just think with the continued attention that the PWHL is getting, it's pretty incredible for all age groups to have something to dream of after college or whenever they decide. So definitely a lot of barriers being broken down in recent times for sure.
Cool. I think this is kind of my favorite question to ask any higher level athlete. So kind of going through, again, you can kind of pick whatever timeline makes sense to you to answer the question, but whether it was going through grade school, high school, while you were in college, how did you balance the distractions that come with being a higher level athlete, or just of being a teenager or young adult in general? So obviously college lifestyle, a lot of people know some of the social aspects of that. Through high school, there's a lot of pressures to do different things. How for you did you either manage it, ignore it, sacrifice to not do certain things, or did you just kind of piece it together and always have balance with how you went through your life developing into an athlete?
Yeah, I think what comes to mind is college for me. I think just having to balance hockey, school, the social aspect was honestly probably the best thing for me. Um, I'm a very competitive person, so everything I do, I want to be the best at. But specifically with hockey in college, I think taking the opportunity sometimes to step away from hockey and maybe focus on school or focus on the social aspect or hanging out with friends was so important to me, because you don't want to get hyper focused on just that one thing, because if that one thing isn't going well, then it kind of takes away other really good things that you have in your life too. So I think I did a pretty good job just throughout college of balancing all those different things, and obviously having fun with it too. I think specifically in college, it can be very stressful at times with hockey and school and everything else, trying to balance it. But just kind of taking it one day at a time and making sure you do truly enjoy it, because it does go by so fast, and those are some of the best years of your life. So I think I kind of realized that definitely in the last few 2 or 3 years, but it's something that you'll never get back, and all you'll kind of have from it is kind of the memories and friendships. So I'm making sure that I take the opportunity each day to work on those things on top of trying to be the best hockey player and person I can be too.
Awesome.
Balance. That's also a commonality that we always hear, right, from top end athletes. I mean, there's obviously the outlier that's like, I played hockey 8 hours a day every day for the last 20 years, right? There's always that outlier, but a lot of these guys are like, step away from the sport when you get a chance and regroup and enjoy playing other sports growing up, and be a multi-sport athlete, and that'll help you in hockey even. And I have kids, and I could tell you right now, Danielle, that the competitiveness among the parents is like mind blowing at this point. And I played hockey growing up, not to any kind of, reputable high level, like even Eric or you, but I don't remember this, and maybe it's because, I was oblivious to it, obviously, but man, it's way too much. Mm-hmm. It's way too much. The parents these days, and you could see it because, the kids come out of the dressing room and they're some of them are crying. So I have a 9-year-old son, and some of the kids are crying, and or when the kids do something that, do something wrong, especially, baseball, hockey, whatever sport it is, they automatically look to the parent for the reaction.
That's funny,
right?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's such a mistake when the kid is feeling that much pressure from a parent, like you were mentioning, that they're so afraid to be creative or misstep or whatever, because dad's watching or mom's watching, and I better not do anything bad because I'm gonna hear it on the ride home or whatever. And I remember the ride home. Like it wasn't fun. Well, even I got it. I got the ride home talks.
Yeah.
Right?
I did too. But even it's even like there's a guilt factor, like Danielle saying, balancing the social aspect too. Like I remember you can be made to feel guilty about, hey, I don't want to practice today. Yeah. I want to go hang out with my buddies and do something else. And you can feel that. Like I had a kid just 2 weekends ago. He was skating off the ice, and I saw him look up into the stands. And so he came off the ice, and I called him on. I asked him, I was like, "Are you looking at your dad?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "I always do that." And it was like just a normal thing. Yeah. I'm like, "Hey man, like you're 16. Like you can start to like pay attention to your own game and talk to dad after the game." Yeah. But like that pressure, but even when I was playing in college, like to Danielle's point, like you have to find how to pick your spots to balance it a little bit, because it is so stressful, and like there is so much pressure while you're in that environment to deliver on everything. Especially if you're somebody that cares about school in addition to your sports social life, like balancing all three is tough, man. Like it's hard to do that kind of stuff. Yeah. So
I couldn't imagine, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's so it is important. So I think another element that I'm curious about, just for you personally, away from specific hockey things, so your practice and your let's say you're shooting pucks at home, whatever training things that you prefer to do, outside of the specific hockey things, what do you think or do you feel worked or made the biggest impact for you? Whether it's a workout thing, a sleep thing, saying no to the party thing, picking your spots properly thing, like which elements, and if you can get into a specific about it, like obviously workouts are a pretty generic answer, but if you could get into a specific about certain habits that you personally had that you feel really pushed the needle to kind of get you to that level that you're at now.
Yeah, I think just specifically growing up, I played several different sports, which I think was also a good thing too, because you don't, like, obviously you want to be really good at what you do, but at the same time, you want to try new things and see what you like. And obviously just exercise as a whole is really important, but like having different aspects in like sports, I think is important. Like growing up, I did like soccer, basketball, a little bit of golf, and like track and field. And obviously like athleticism is like a huge thing that helps you out with many different sports. So I think just not just playing hockey growing up, I think really honestly benefited me I did play hockey my whole life, but I also had all these other sports that were in the mix, and I think kind of helped elevate my game to where it is today.
Awesome. I think this will kind of be my last one here. A pretty generic kind of question, but it'd be interesting to get your perspective. If you can kind of give advice, like I'm thinking about the U18 girls I have now, but even for girls that are younger, I'm sure you're no stranger to the ups and downs as a higher level athlete. Is there anything specifically that you, or any advice that you would specifically give to younger athletes in general, but particularly for the girls that are, again, trying to follow in your trajectory, dealing with that, even the mindset, just like the ups and downs. When you're high, you're high. A lot of times when you're low, and that kind of stuff. So any advice that you would give kind of to those younger players that are going to be looking to you as you go play for Ottawa here to kind of emulate what you're doing?
Yeah, I would say that it's never really going to be easy. I think in hockey as a whole, there's going to be so many ups and downs. Like it's never going to be a steady path to where you want to go, and it's never truly going to be easy, whether that's mentally or physically. But I think what you can kind of control is how hard you work and also the attitude you're putting forth every single day. I know for myself, something that was really important is always kind of trying to see the light in the situation, but always doing my best. Because I think that's kind of what my parents taught me growing up is, especially in sport as a whole, there's so many things that you can't control, whether that's the politics of it or other people or just those sorts of things. So those are kind of two things I've always tried to focus on. But I think in a team sport too, it's just such a good thing because you have players around you that are probably going through the same things too, especially in those kind of lower times. Chances are that someone on your team is probably going through the same thing too, and you might not be aware of it. So I just think having the grace for your teammates and players around you, but also at the same time not being afraid to talk about it is important too, especially in the lows through college. I find just sometimes saying it out loud to someone or having the conversation or just being honest about how you're feeling really helps myself out. Just kind of getting it off your chest in a way, and I'm just trying to enjoy it, I guess, throughout it all. So I think that's kind of what has helped me get to where I am. But yeah, I think that's definitely really, really important things.
Awesome. I thought of just one more question while you're mentioning college again. Transitioning from U18 to college, obviously huge adjustment, I would imagine. You haven't yet really had to feel the full adjustment to pro, but what would you say about the adjustment from playing whatever U18 before you hopped up into your college career? What were kind of the key things that you would say would help prepare players to make that jump, whether it's an academic thing, an athletic thing, a training thing, a hockey thing specifically, a mindset thing? What were some of those kind of key hitters making that adjustment for you?
Yeah, I would say probably the mindset I think is so important. When you're switching from U18, you're obviously from going to college, you're probably the best player on your team at U18. You're probably pretty comfortable in the environment you're in, but and then kind of transitioning to college, you're now the young person again. You're new to the environment. You're going to have to learn how to balance school, hockey, kind of the ups and downs that come with it. So I'm just kind of getting yourself in a good mindset, I think is so important. And for some players, this might be the first time they're living away from home or that sort of thing. So I think just being able to be mentally in a good spot, which I know is so vague, but there's going to be a lot of hardships that I feel like come in your freshman year. So having that good mindset and being in the right headspace going into those things, I think is just really crucial for sure.
Awesome. The answer to this question can be you have nothing else, but is there anything else? Because this is going to be so valuable, just like for the audience that listens to this in general, there's a lot, and I constantly get requests specifically to hear from female hockey players, female athletes, etc. Is there anything else, like key topics or key things that resonate with you or important with you that you think would be beneficial to mention or talk about a little bit before we kind of wrap it up here?
No, I don't think so. Not off the top of my head.
Awesome.
Cool.
I'm I'm good then. That was like super
Yeah.
interesting conversation, Danielle.
Yeah,
honestly,
you're really these questions are gonna really be helpful for the girls at the academy, and even for people watching this. I mean, to shed light on, female athletics and like Eric's mentioned, like there's actually a path now to a professional aspect of this sport. I think is super valuable to people that it's in it, and I also don't think it's being talked about enough, like you mentioned. So. Really appreciate the time you took to, I guess, explain the route you took to get to where you are, and I'm really looking forward to this partnership and watching you play for Ottawa.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
All right,
Awesome.
thanks a lot, Danielle.
Thanks a
Nice
lot.
chatting with you. Great
Appreciate
to meet you.
Yep, you too.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
So real quick, we'll wrap it up and talk like a few minutes about it. But like, what do you make of that as a whole? Because
Yep.
obviously, so there's no way I would have brought up comments like that or questions. That's why you're here. Let's be honest here. Not only that, but I think it's super interesting that you ask questions that the girls and the girls' coaches asked you to ask.
Yeah.
Which is super helpful.
Yeah, for sure.
So thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
That's number one. What do you make of that? Do you think that my ending thought there about it not being talked enough, like the roadmap, is that accurate? Because I don't see a lot of it.
Well, this is why I said at the start, like, I don't know if I just don't know the girls' space enough.
Yeah.
But I know that there's a clear path for boys.
Yeah.
You go from your AAA to a junior program to NCAA program, or you go from AAA to the OHL. Like, I can map that out. I can even map out where the gaps are. Like, the gap between 16 and 18 in Ontario is one spot. In the States, not so much. Like, they go high school right up to when they jump to a junior league at 18 or whatever. The girls, I don't know so much because it feels like if you don't jump to college right after high school, there's a gap there. And now there are some junior leagues where girls go and play and all that stuff, but it doesn't seem as clear to me. And I think maybe it's beyond college, more to the pro level now that the PWHL is a thing. Danielle made a great point. Like, now girls can actually see.
Yeah. Maybe that's what it is.
They can dream about it now,
Maybe that's what was lacking, is there was no
there's no end point, right?
There was no vision or whatever.
Yeah, because you would get a Division I scholarship as a female hockey player 5 years ago, and after you play college, what do you do? Like, you could play for Team Canada, maybe, but and then
as a career.
Yeah, right? And there were like minor pro leagues as far as I understand, but nothing where you have to have another job.
Yeah,
you have to do something else that's not just hockey.
Yeah.
It was really difficult to actually just have a full career in hockey, unless you're those top end exceptionals. Like, I'm sure Haley Wickenheiser didn't have another job. Maybe she did, though. I don't know, right? Yeah. So now it does seem like it's clear, and how much they can sustain that as full-time employment will be interesting to see as they keep progressing. Yeah. But they're starting somewhere now, which is cool.
Yeah.
But the biggest takeaway for me is that it's the same shit if I'm talking to boys or girls.
Yeah.
We'd say the same things. They say the same stuff. They need to focus on the same things. The mentality is the same. It's all the same. So for people, at least on our podcast, that ask me about women's hockey or female, I always defer. I always say, I don't know, because I'm not experienced enough working with female players to have an opinion. I would think it's the same, right? There's little personality differences that are different between men and women. Like, the one question that I got from the female coach is that girls aren't necessarily as creative. They have a harder time being creative. They're very good at following structure. The boys have the opposite issue. They're terrible at following structure, right? But maybe they have a little bit easier time being creative. There's like one kind of temperamental difference that presents itself.
I would have thought it would have been opposite, to be honest with you. Right?
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, think about it. Like,
boys following rules?
Okay, when you frame it that way, yes. But, like, I guess boys being better with structure, you know what I'm saying? Like,
a little more ordered.
Yeah, theoretically speaking, if you look at the education system, jobs in general.
I see. Like, girls are more creative.
Yes.
They're more interested in the creative fields.
Exactly. Exactly. Like, boys are more inclined to go into the STEM fields and things like that, right? Like, you're an engineer.
True. Yeah,
right?
true.
By trade.
Yeah,
right?
by far more dominated by men.
So,
yeah, for sure.
So from that perspective, I would have thought that. But, is it because girls may feel, less inclined to want to or maybe girls are a little bit more prone to like the anxiety aspect of screwing up if they are going to be more creative, because maybe by virtue of the sport, there's less women playing the sport.
Yeah.
Or so there's just more eyes on them.
Yeah.
So they don't want to screw up. Is that what it is?
Right. And it could just be like I said, a temperamental thing where
Yeah.
they're just more inclined towards negative emotion, and that makes them not want to screw up. And if the coach says this is the rule and you deviate from the rule, then they feel that more than a boy does.
Yeah.
But I give these girls a structure and they can bang it out. I can say it one time. I can say it once and they got it. I got to say it to the boys 100 times and they still don't get it. Like just drill busters.
Yeah.
So frustrating to practice with.
Well, I guess when you think of it, like it makes sense, right? In early stages of education, boys are way more rambunctious.
Yeah.
Like females perform better in school.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like statistically speaking.
Yeah. So that
makes sense.
That piece of it is where I always shy away from talking about it because I don't know the differences temperamentally enough to talk about it because I don't work with female athletes enough to have an opinion.
Yeah.
But what I do know is that everything that we talked about in these questions with Danielle is the exact same thing I would say about boys. Exact same thing.
That's interesting.
Right? Whether it's the distractions that we talked about through college or dealing with that or the social life or the balance or whatever it is, the mindset, what was it like when you got drafted? What was it like coming up through minor hockey? How did you deal with the different elements of the game? Like all this stuff it's the same kind of things that we're talking about.
Yeah.
And so it's not that different. It's a lot of the same things apply. And I've always believed this, even if I were to talk about training stuff, like off-ice training, it's the same. Nutrition, it's the same.
Yeah.
Are there going to be some differences the more in the weeds you get? Yes. But at a high level, everything kind of applies the same across the board. Like it's not even the recruiting thing. It's like she goes to an academy style program in the CSSHL and she got exposure to schools the same way our boys teams do.
Yeah.
She has coaches that are connected with schools or connected with NCAA programs or whatever, same as we have with the boys. It's the same kind of framework.
Yeah.
Even if you get, like I said, at the very, very deep levels, there's going to be some differences, but it's very, very much similar for whoever we're talking about, you know, which I think is great because that means you can apply principles from different resources. So if I have a young female hockey player that listens to my philosophy on training, that applies.
Yeah.
You know, and if I have a boy that listens to a female that's an expert in whatever, I went to at the coaches site, for example, when they have their speakers come up, and if it's somebody that's coaching the Toronto team in the PWHL, the X's and O's apply. Like it's the same across the board, right? So you can use a big pool of resources now to help yourself. It doesn't matter where you fall on that spectrum, right?
Very interesting. One of the things that I was shocked about, to be honest with you, is she played with boys up until grade 10.
Yeah, that's
crazy.
late. Yeah, that's late, man.
Not. I guess obviously it's not crazy, but it's impressive.
It's rare.
It's rare and impressive. To
like
be
so,
honest
she'd be playing full contact boys hockey.
That's
in
what
grade
I
10.
mean. Like that's
like that. The boys are they're well into puberty.
Yeah,
like,
that's what I mean. Like that's very impressive.
Yeah,
very
seriously.
impressive. To be honest with you,
I would be curious to talk to other people that got to see her play about the perspective of her playing in that league. That would be interesting.
Yeah, I'm
to
gonna have
see
to
like
get
how
clips.
she stacks.
I'm gonna have Dakari reach out and get clips of her playing in that league or back then when
that's a good league too, man. Like CSSHL's that's like the top dog out west.
Crazy.
Sure. That's like the top league, which is super interesting. But
yeah,
man, I thought it was great. I thought it was super. I'd love to talk to her again.
So, question number 1: do you remember the first time you tried BioSteel? And if you do, what was the first flavor that you ever tried?
Yeah, I don't remember the exact date. I think just being a hockey player, you're kind of sometimes surrounded by products like BioSteel. But yeah, I definitely remember it, and I believe it was the berry flavor. So
was it the powder or the RTD that you tried first?
It was the powder. I think that was kind of more around a few years ago for sure.
Interesting. So was it really far back where it was Drink the Pink mostly, or was it just like the mixed berry powder?
Yeah, I think it was around the time of Drink the Pink.
Okay.
I remember that slogan for sure. So.
Yeah, very interesting. I actually remember that too. That's the first time I ever came.
Same.
National Sports. You remember National Sports?
I do.
I don't think so, no.
Oh, she doesn't remember National. I think I'm a lot older than her. I think that's a problem.
I'm a good amount older than her too. But I remember walking in. It was all the not what would you call it, the pop-up shelving
Yeah,
that they had.
yeah. It was all drink the pink stuff. Yeah, for sure. What's your favorite flavor now?
I'd say my favorite flavor now is the pink lemonade and also the blue raspberry. I'm a big lemonade person, so
Okay,
having something that resembles the taste of lemonade that's
gotcha.
also healthy is pretty great. So
Awesome. And do you feel like how do you feel the flavors are? Do you feel like the flavors are really dialed in? Do you feel like they're very accurate for what, a blue raspberry product should taste like, a pink lemonade product should taste like? What are your thoughts?
yeah, definitely. They're very similar to obviously the names of them, which I think is pretty incredible too. I also recently tried the orange flavor, which I'm also a huge fan of. So
Awesome. The orange
I
cream
think the
orange
name
cream pop, right? Yeah.
represents. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Is that what you're
Sorry,
talking about? Yeah, yeah.
that's the
There you
one.
go. Perfect.
I haven't tried that one yet.
It's so good. Do you notice a difference when you use BioSteel and you don't use BioSteel, or you haven't used it?
Yeah, I'd say definitely. I've definitely incorporated it a lot into my routine this summer, and just when you're sweating, whether that be like through workouts or on the ice, it definitely helps you stay hydrated and kind of almost gives me an extra boost of energy when I'm doing those things. So.
Have you used any other BioSteel products? And if you have, what's your favorite?
Yeah, I've actually started using the recovery mix. So
Okay.
I've been using that actually at Hockey Canada. I used it a few times and I thought it was really beneficial. So started using it more at home. But I've also recently got the greens powder. So
Okay.
I'm not a big vegetable person. So I think just incorporating some greens into my diet is definitely useful too.
Yeah, you and I both. I'm not the broccoli type of guy either, to be honest with you. What do you think separates BioSteel from the rest of the products in the industry?
I would just say the variety. Honestly, there's so many different flavors and kind of things that you can be incorporating into your training. I'm a big fan of the ready to go containers because I think you can just bring them anywhere pretty much and have them help you with your training. But I also think the variety of flavors helps too. Just there's so many athletes of different ages, and obviously everyone has different taste buds. So just having many of different options, I think, is super beneficial.
Very cool. What advice would you have for younger athletes about nutrition and hydration and why they should consider BioSteel?
Yeah, I would just say is whatever age you're at as an athlete, what you put into your body kind of helps you fuel for whatever training session or game or practice you may be participating in. So, anything to give yourself an advantage, I think, is super important, whether that be through BioSteel or what you're eating. So, I just think, especially with hockey and sports in general, it's always the little things that make such a big difference that kind of help take you to the top. So, I think if you have the opportunity to incorporate BioSteel into uh, your everyday plan, I think it'll be able to take you to really good places. So
Very cool. What does it mean to you to be associated with a brand like BioSteel?
it means a lot. I think just growing up, you see all these brands and the impact they have on sports as a whole. So to be an ambassador of BioSteel is kind of a big honor for me. And I think it's going to help continue to take my game to new places. So I'm really looking forward to the partnership and everything that's going to come along with it.
This is an interesting one. First, did you know BioSteel went bankrupt? And what did you think of when you heard it went bankrupt?
Yeah, I did hear that news actually. I was definitely a little surprised, just with the name, the big name it had, and kind of how it was the main sponsor of the NHL hydration. So definitely was a bit surprised, but obviously I don't fully understand the business side of everything. So yeah, kind of just was definitely surprised for sure.
Yeah, you and I both, to be honest with you. When I first heard that, I was like, "There's no way that this brand could be bankrupt. Like, what actually happened?" But
Yeah, that's what I remember that too. Because like I told you before, I was working with you guys before you even bought it.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what is going on right now?
Yeah.
And it started to come out. It was bizarre.
yeah, it was super wild when I actually heard it. All right, last question. What did you think when it was bought out and relaunched under new ownership?
I would say I was definitely really excited. I think just like I mentioned from multiple years ago, just trying BioSteel for the first time to now being having a partnership with them. I obviously really like the products, and to hear it initially went bankrupt, I would say I was a bit disappointed, but seeing to the point it's gotten to now with new management and the launch of some new things is really exciting for myself and obviously the company too. So